next guest is a legal analyst, a journalist, an author, and victims' rights advocate who has been using her voice to help fight injustices for over 3 decades. And she's continuing to do so with her Oxygen show, Injustices with Nancy Grace. Please welcome Nancy Grace.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
You just blew my cover. I told my children I'm 11 and a half. So stop that with the 3 decades.
Get it together. Mom's only 11 and a half. Welcome to the show, Nancy. Oh my gosh. We're so excited to get into some topics with you. Of course, we've been looking forward to this. So Nancy, with the current climate in our country, people are protesting and fighting against injustices every single day. How do you suggest people fight to get justice for victims? Do you think that protests really work?
They work because they bring our attention to the injustice. And many people across the country wouldn't even know these injustices were happening if it were not for the protests, right? People across the country would have no idea about injustices that happen every single day without the protests. On the other hand, a lot of people fear the protests, and that turns them against the cause. So it's a double-edged sword. But if you don't speak up and you stand by and don't do anything when you see wrong occurring, you become complicit.
That's true. So you know what? There's a lot of talk about defunding the police. Do you think that's the best action for change?
No, and no. Let me tell you why. Quick story. It's my first child sex trafficking case. And I worked with 3 vice cops on the street every day for 3 months. It was cold. Oh, I remember it. And we got a conviction ultimately. We found the little girl. We got a conviction. About 6 months passed. I look up on the TV screen in my office. I had it on mute. And it was one of those sketches in federal court. I'm like, wow, that sure looks like my 3 vice cops I work with. But I couldn't tell because the sketch was so bad. It was the 3 vice cops. They had been shaking down dopers for years. It was so bad the dopers actually complained to the feds. My point is, I had no idea. So within every group, be it judges, defense lawyers, prosecutors, police, you're gonna have bad apples, let me just say. And if they are allowed to flourish, it will turn everyone against them. But defunding the cops, what are you going to do when you've got, let's just say a dom rail, domestic relations. You got a gun to a woman's head. What, you're going to send out a social worker to talk down the bullet? No, you cannot defund the cops. I get the sentiment. I'm part of the system my whole life.
Nancy, not obviously getting rid of police force because we need the protection, but reallocating funds. Like some of the different cities have astronomical funding for police. What do you think about that?
Right. I don't think that it's fair that so many jurisdictions are so underfunded. And I remember prosecuting, and I would have no choice sometimes. There were no halfway houses. There were no drug programs for first offenders. I could either send somebody to jail or cut them loose because money is not going where it should go.
Yes.
But I really think that stopping cops in their tracks when they, we've seen all the cop brutality and the cop murders. Not only should they be thrown off the force whenever there is a question sent to Internal Affairs, I think they should be prosecuted.
Absolutely. Nancy, I want to ask you, with the election coming up, and in regards to felon disenfranchisement, what are your thoughts on convicted felons who are deprived of their right to vote?
I've got to tell you what happened to me. It was my very first bank robbery prosecution. Very first. No eyewitnesses. The guy had on a disguise, a great disguise. All I had was handwriting analysis. And I struck the jury. I started the case. My investigator ran in, and I'm like, shh, because I hate for him to talk to me during a trial. Finally, we got a break. I'm like, what? He goes, you got a convict on your jury. I'm like, I said, what did he do? What did he do? He said, bank robbery. I had a bank robber convicted on my bank robbery jury. I got a conviction. But long story short, I had to think twice about convicted felons having the right to vote. It's a double-edged sword because they've seen the system from the inside out. I want to hear what they have to say. On the other hand, I'm sure they're biased against the state. So how different are they from everybody else? We all go in to the voting booth with our thoughts and our biases and our baggage. So my jury is out on that. I will never get over that, although he did vote to convict. All right.
See? Wow.
See?
Well, I think if they're a felon and then they did their time, that they should be allowed to vote if they've done their time.
Absolutely.
You know.
Absolutely.
I agree. If they have done their time and they've gotten out and they're trying to have a life, why not let them vote? I mean, they've been punished. The punishment is over.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, you are fighting injustices on your show, Injustice with Nancy Grace, and I heard that there is one case that is very special to you. Tell us about it.
So this case in particular, though, really struck me because I had to really go and investigate the case myself. It was a young Iraqi war vet, young, scrubbed in sunshine, handsome, had left behind a wife and the little girls, his daughters. Gets back home, couldn't get a job, kept trying to get a job. He got a job at a Quick Trip, trying to support his family, working extra hours. Then he just disappears. So she, the wife, Amanda, goes to police and say he's disappeared. And they basically say, oh, he just left you. He's gone. That's all. He's just missing. He left, lady. And when I went to go and visit with his mother, Stephanie, guys, I went into her, it's giving me chill bumps. I went into her house, and all across her dining room table, she had all the photo albums out of him when he was a little boy and him in the first, all the way up to him going off to Iraq, his wedding, the whole thing. And she just, I was there for 3 hours. She cried the whole time. And I knew I had to find her son. And we did.
Wow. Well, we've got a clip of Injustice with Nancy Grace. Let's check it out.
Can you imagine walking in Stephanie's shoes? As a mother myself, I'd want everybody, police, canines, helicopters, the works, out there, shoulder to shoulder with me, searching for my son. But as a prosecutor, I know law enforcement can only do so much. Unfortunately, they don't have the manpower and resources to throw at finding a man who may have disappeared all on his own and who may want to stay that way. Gone.
That looks great.